وعلى آله وأصحابه الطاهرين ما دام ما في السماوات والأرضين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم إنا نسألك علما ينفعنا ويرفعنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وعملا متقبلا وشفاء من كل داء. وبعد، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. My apologies for running late today, but Alhamdulillah I see that you have benefited from the time in terms of swapping up the tutorial. Allah reward you and your tutors abundantly, inshallah. Today we start from, I'm led to believe, Surah Yaseen. Tamam. Surah Yaseen. Okay. If you recall from the first year, we would have a certain approach in terms of tackling a new chapter. It's a very simple approach, but I find it's quite beneficial. Our first approach was looking at the word Surah. So we would take our time to look at the word Surah. So literally, the word Surah means a hole, if you recall. And then it is to a degree juxtaposed to the term jidar in Arabic. So if you wanted to refer to a wall in Arabic, you could say surah or you could say jidaru. The difference between the two is that a jidar would be a low hole, whereas surah would be a high hole. And there's always a connection. So in other words, the word surah is not used literally, it's used metaphorically. You know, you're saying the one word but you're meaning something else. So when you say surah, literally it means high hole, but you're using the word high hole to refer to something else altogether. You're using it to refer to a chapter of the Quran. So what's the connection? The connection is that every chapter, in terms of its meaning, is high and lofty. Tamam? And I think this is an important concept to understand when it comes to Quran. You know, the movement from the literal meaning to the metaphorical meaning. What we refer to in Arabic as haqiqi, and the real meaning, and majazi, the metaphorical meaning. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Okay? So that's the first thing we normally talk about. The significance or the meaning, literal and metaphorical meaning of the term surah. Tamam? Everybody comfortable with that, inshallah? Tamam. The second issue we normally address when we're starting off a new chapter would be the name of the chapter. So from your experience in terms of Quran, a certain name is given to a chapter for a number of reasons. I think the most common, and Allah knows best, would be that a particular incident is mentioned within that chapter, and the chapter is named thereby. For example, Surah Al-Baqarah. Why is it called Baqarah? So what's the literal meaning of the word Baqarah? Cow. So how come, this chapter is referred to as Surah Al-Baqarah? From the beginning to the end, does it deal or does it relate to the cow? And that's the second lesson, that not necessarily is the name of a chapter the theme of the chapter. No, the name is not indicative of the theme. The name is simply because mention has been made of the story of the cow, in this instance the story that was transpired between Musa alayhi salam and the Jews. So therefore the chapter gets its name therefrom. Other chapters, can you think of a few other chapters like that, where there's an incident within the chapter and then it gets that name? Surah Al-Kahf, exactly. Surah Al-Kahf, it's a story. The theme is about faith versus materialism. That's the theme of Surah Al-Kahf. But one of the stories mentioned there would be the companions of the cave. So it gets that particular name. But that's not the only incident mentioned. There's a number of incidents mentioned over there. Yes. Any other one? Surah Al-Hujurat. Hujurat, yes. The word Hujurat, here the word Hujurat is mentioned, and then it gets the it's not really an incident. It's just that the word Hujurat is mentioned. relating to an incident which has taken place in that particular chapter. So yes, Hujurat. How about the story of all the animal names, so to say, the bee, the ant. So Suratul Nahl, the bee. Suratul Naml, the story of the ant. Simply because that name has been mentioned over there. Khair. Okay. And then you have certain other names which are, what do they refer to? Certain chapters have multiple names. One of the names, or two or three, has been transmitted. In other words, this is how the Prophet ﷺ referred to that particular chapter. Other names are what they refer to as ijtihadi. You find a person reads a chapter and he finds, for example, this particular theme quite apparent within the chapter, and then he gives it that particular name. We're reading Surah At-Tawbah. Surah At-Tawbah has a number of names. One of the names is Al-Fadhiha. Ibn Abbas gave that name. Why did he give that name? Because in that particular chapter, Allah talks about the qualities and thereby highlighting who the hypocrites are. So Fadhiha means to call out, to embarrass. You follow me? So Ibn Abbas is given that name. So likewise, we find certain chapters they are given names by the original thinking of a given exegete, of a given mufassir. Tamam? Okay. So that brings us now to Surah Yaseen. So we know what the meaning of surah is, we know what the meaning of jidar is, we know the literal meaning, we know the metaphorical meaning, we know why it's called like that. Okay. So what's the name of this particular chapter? Surah Yaseen. Surah Yaseen. And this brings another angle also. Many chapters get the name based on the very first verse. Many chapters get the name based on the very first verse. For example, you would say, in the first year we did Suratul Sharh, and then it became Suratul Inshirah, and then some of us simply say Suratu Alam Nashrah. So some say Suratu Ad-Duha, some say Suratu Wad-Duha. You know, it's after the first words. So likewise here, but here it's unique because the word Yaseen, it is what we refer to as, what do we refer to Yaseen as? Huruf al-Muqatta'at. So these huruf muqatta'at are basically single letters in the Arabic language, paired in a unique way that none but Allah knows the actual meaning. So yes, scholars have, applied again the original thinking and came up with possible meanings. But you cannot categorically say that Yaseen means this, that and the other, because its real meaning only Allah knows. But of the meanings, somebody's name is given Yaseen. Why would you be given the name Yaseen? Do we have any Yaseen in class? Or Muhammad Yaseen? It's quite common, isn't it? Yaseen and Muhammad Yaseen. So is that like Pick and Pay, a no-name brand, Yaseen? Nobody knows the meaning. No, you heard what I'm saying? Nobody knows the meaning categorically. But that doesn't prevent scholars from applying themselves and trying to unearth a possible meaning. So what are the possible meanings that have been attributed or attached to the term Yaseen? Look, we name our children Yaseen, isn't it? So when a person names the child Yaseen, so it could be that you're naming the child after a particular personality. It may be your father or your grandfather or some saintly person that you know. That's the one reason. So you're not concerned about the meaning. But others, we name a child because of the meaning. So if you're naming your child Yaseen because of the meaning, what meaning did you come to? You follow I'm just giving like a kind of a relevant example so it can relate to you. Yaseen, why do we say Yaseen? Haj Fakhri, Fadl. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Generally, when people say Yaseen as a name, then they say Muhammad Yaseen. They give two names, Muhammad and Yaseen. That's not an Arabic phenomenon. Two names is not an Arabic phenomenon. The Arabs had one name. That is, anybody with two names? Tafaddal. Muhammad Fakhri, mashallah. Muhammad Kashif, Ajib. Muhammad Zain. Muhammad Salih, Ajib. You know why? It wasn't an Arab phenomenon. The Arabs have a name, they have like a patronym, like for example, Abu Ahmad, Muhammad, Abu Ahmad, and then they have a title. They give you like a title, you know. The title could be anything. If you look at the famous titles, it would be As-Siddiq, it would be Al-Faruq, and so forth. So that's the Arab sort of like naming. Then later on, it is really in the Ottomans who introduced a dual name. Why did they introduce dual names? Because they loved the one name, but they couldn't get, like in our class, they couldn't get themselves not to name their children Muhammad. So the first name was Muhammad, and the second was Kashif, Muhammad, Zain, Muhammad. So we have 4 Muhammads in class, and they have other names that you know them better by, but the actual first name is Muhammad. So out of love for the Prophet ﷺ, the Ottomans in particular, they would name all of the children Muhammad, and then give them like another name. You follow me? Okay. So now Yaseen, you'd find Muhammad Yaseen. But Yaseen, some scholars say it refers to the Prophet ﷺ. And they would look at the context really. How does the surah go on if you read further? Yaseen, Hakim, Innaka lamin al-mursaleen. You with me? Another name in Quran where they understand that name of the cut-off letters to refer to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would be which surah? Taha. And then if you look at the context again, مَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لِتَشْقَى. So people say Taha, that is referred to the Prophet ﷺ, and Allah knows best. So what you categorically understand is that Yasin, in terms of its actual meaning, Allah knows best. That hasn't prevented our scholars from applying themselves and looking at possible meanings. And of the possible meanings that they've unearthed is that Yasin refers to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you can understand why, because he is the primary addressee of the Quran. So Allah addresses him, and Allah extends the lesson to everybody else by extension. But primarily the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is being addressed. Wallahu a'lam. So that's a bit about the name. There are in Ibn Ashur, in his commentary on the Quran, he says that he is found in one Eastern, so he comes from Tunisia, so an Eastern manuscript, which is like sort of he finds the following, which is an anomaly. He says in this particular surah Yasin, he finds the name being given Surat Habib an-Najjar. Surat Habib an-Najjar. Now you know in Surat Yasin there's a famous incident coming now very shortly about Habib an-Najjar. That was his name, and he was the one who came to his people and advised them to take heed of the words of the messenger, but they would not. So that's where the chapter where that particular chapter starts. That's basically really the wording of Habib an-Najjar. So in that particular manuscript, this chapter is referred to as Surat Habib an-Najjar, right? But that's an anomaly. It's probably just the person writing that he's referring it to now as Habib an-Najjar. He's making his own ijtihad, in terms of the name of the chapter, but in terms of what has been transmitted to us now. And then he also, in this manuscript, Surah At-Teen. We know the Surah At-Teen, the story of the fig, At-Teen, but he has it as Surah Al-Zaytun. So Zaytun refers to the olive, so Wat-Teeni was Zaytun. So in that particular manuscript, everything is exactly the same like all of the other manuscripts, except that in that Quranic manuscript you have Surah Yasin referred to as Surah Habib an-Najjar. Why I'm mentioning it is that it helps us when it comes to, what does it help us with? It helps us when it comes to looking at different names and also understanding the content of the surah. Habib an-Najjar we'll speak about as we go along in terms of the surah, inshallah. Then the other issue, which I think is but very important and a very unique verse which is coming now later, would be the verse نَكْتُبُ مَا قَدَّمُوا وَآثَارَهُم. Because when we look in terms of your copies that you have in front of you, Surah Yasin, is it Makkiyah or Madaniyah? Makkiyah. In other words, so when we draw a distinction, and good thing I'm mentioning this because when we do normally our standard approach, what do we say? The meaning of the word surah and jidar. What do we look at? We look at the names of the surah, and then what do we look at? We also look at whether the surah is Makki or Madani. to give you a timeline, because timelines are very important. Wallahu a'lam. Timelines are very important in relation to Quran. So there are two broad timelines, and those are referred to in terms of the one timeline, and the other timeline would be Makki and Madani. So Makki would mean what? It was revealed before the Hijrah, and Madani means it was revealed post-Hijrah. It doesn't refer to a geographical location, it's more like a timeline, before Hijrah and after Hijrah, as opposed to in Makkah and in Medina, which you might think in terms of just the literal meaning of the word Makkah and Medina. Wallahu a'lam. But there's one verse which some scholars say it almost gives you the impression that it was revealed in Medina. And that in Medina there was a tribe called Banu Salama, and they stayed a distance from the masjid. If you've been to Medina, where would they be staying, Banu Salama? They would be staying at if you've been to Quba, so if you're coming from the Quba road, you're coming from Quba, you're coming back to Medina, then the Prophet ﷺ, he took that route from Quba back to Medina. So on the way, in Quba he settled by a tribe. On the way he met the cousins of that tribe. So they said, "O Prophet of Allah, you have to alight by us. Otherwise, until the day of judgment, we'll have to listen to the virtue that you've afforded our cousins over us, because you stopped in Quba. So if you're not going to stop by us, we're going to hear about this till the end of time. So please alight by us." So the Prophet alighted there, and he performed the Jumu'ah there as well. Right? And the place where he alighted by, there's a masjid they call Masjid Jumu'ah. Right? Now by Masjid Jumu'ah, that locality there was a locality of Banu Salama. So now, even in today's time, is it very near to Medina, or is it a distance? I mean, from Masjid Nabawi, it's a distance. It's going to take you a while to walk. And today everything is closer. That time things were much further. What we consider to be near in today's time was very far those days. I mean, even in Cape Town, before 2-3 decades ago, if you went to Strand, you would pack in patkos. Strand, like Clippertjes Bay. Clippertjes Bay was like going to Neisner. You camp and you take everything. It was like an expedition, like a trip going that way. Okay, so now Banu Salama, who's residing over there, they're wanting to move closer to Masjid Nabawi. So the Prophet ﷺ tells them that don't move closer. Why not? Tuktab atharakum tuktab athar. When you walk, right, and then you leave an imprint on the ground. That imprint in terms of the good deed that you're performing whilst, and as a result of that you have an imprint, that is written down for you. So now that verse now where is it? This is happening in Medina. It doesn't mean that the Prophet ﷺ refers to that verse was only revealed in Medina. It could have been revealed in Makkah, because it's a general thing that whatever good you do, the effects of the good is written down. The Prophet ﷺ is only using it as a proof in Medina. So therefore, the scholars say that the entire Surah Yaseen was revealed in Makkah. The entire Surah Yaseen was revealed in Makkah. Tamam. Everybody okay with that? And then if you look at the theme of what would be the theme in terms of Surah Yaseen, and the fact that it's revealed in Makkah will basically tell you what the theme is. Are we on building with the edifice of Islam, or are we building the foundations? We're building the foundations. So the foundation of Islam would be what? The aspects of belief, right? And I think this is a very important point. Coming out of Surah Al-Hujurat, we understand the significance in terms of the foundation being a foundation of belief in whatever the Prophet ﷺ has brought and believing it to be true. That's the foundation. So what would this now be? If you look at I don't know what primary education you received in terms of Islam, but did you learn the kalimat? They call it the kalimat. So there's 6 or 7, and the one would be Iman Mujmal. آمنت بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله واليوم الآخر والقدر خيره وشره من الله تعالى والبعث بعد الموت. You might not be familiar with the wording, but definitely you're familiar with the concepts. But in certain primary Islamic schools, then they would have these as the wordings, like the declarations, so to say, right? Now, what is a declaration all about? I believe in Allah, I believe in His messengers, I believe in His angels, I believe in His books, I believe in messengers, I believe in the final day, I believe that good and bad comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We believe in the concept of decree. Okay? Now when you look at the Makki Surah, these are the foundational things which was basically encapsulated in these declarations. These are the basic things that you're going to read in a chapter which is a Makki chapter, to make it easy for you to understand. So here, particularly in Surah Yaseen, when you start Surah Yaseen, what does Allah say? Yaseen wal Quran al Hakim. So what is Allah going to talk about? Allah is going to talk about wahi, because Quran represents wahi. Then if you think of Quran, Allah is going to talk about the what they refer to in English as inimitability of the Quran, any mu'jiza. The Quran is inimitable, you can't copy it. So Allah is going to talk about revelation, the inimitable nature of the Quran. Then Allah is going to talk about prophethood. إنك لمن المرسلين, prophethood. تفضل. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. No.
Is that correct in terms of the rules of recitation?
So, Bismillah, you answer. If you think about it now, because we can look at it from, but you're bringing a unique angle there. We looked at it from, can you understand? Because when you say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, it means that you're understanding Yaseen to be Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? So from our discussions, I think that to a certain degree we've created the framework in which you can answer that question. Can you understand Yaseen means Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? The answer to that would be yes. You cannot categorically say that Yaseen means Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, but you can say only Allah knows the meaning of Yaseen. But in terms of the original thinking of our scholars, some have said that Yaseen refers to Muhammad, and therefore if I'm reading Yaseen and understand it to be Muhammad, then I can say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The second thing would be in terms of a recitation. Would it be correct to say Yaseen Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? What my mind tells me, so it's a two-tier discussion. We're looking at now understanding the meaning, that's the one aspect. The other one is in terms of recitation. If you understand the meaning of that Yaseen means Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam on that premise, on that basis, can you now say Yaseen in terms of recitation and then stop and say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Look, if you saying, for example, if you come to verses that it relates to paradise and you stop and you ask Allah for paradise, is that permissible? If you read verses of the fire of hell and you stop and you ask Allah for salvation from the fire of hell, would that be permissible? If verses come and you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, is it permissible for you to ask Allah for forgiveness? Yes, it is. So in that particular light, whereby you have this interactive nature with Quran, as long as, and this happened I think in the early days, whereby you find certain of the manuscripts would differ in terms of Quran. It's not that Quran differed, it's because sometimes the scholars wrote in their understanding of Quran, almost like a footnote, but then it was promoted to actually Quran in terms of the person reading it. So as long as that doesn't happen, and Alhamdulillah, as Allah promised, was Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun, that we have revealed the remembrance and we will protect the remembrance. I mean, how much commentary to the Quran has been written? Has any commentary got Quranic status over the 1400 years? No. You with me? So as long as we steer clear of that, but an interactive recitation of Quran is something which, I speak under correction, is something which there's at the very least no problem with. I mean, when a person says Yaseen Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, none of us believe that this person is guilty of interpolation. He's not adding to the Quran what is not there. No, it's simple. He's understanding Yaseen to mean Muhammad, and if Yaseen means Muhammad, then you cannot but respond by saying Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The problem, however, comes in, and this is my understanding. You see, I say Yaseen وَالْقُرْآنِ الْحَكِيمِ إِنَّكَ. Now everybody in the Hadad Jama looks at me. There's no Maulana. There's no Fadakse Maulanas. Waar had hij geleerd? En that's okay, so fine. Next part I go to Yaseen sallallahu alayhi wasallam, wal Yaseen wal Quran, and then you know what we do? We say Yaseen sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and then what do? We go back now, and then we say Yaseen wal Quran Hakim. So what? It's almost like, look, it's not Quran. I'm just saying sallallahu alayhi wasallam for that. Now when I do that, and then they also, was Hafiz. Hy kan nie eens reg lees inkykie, waar sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You know, you can't. My Afrikaans are so good, man, but he can't even, you know. So now that's the problem, and please understand me correctly here. That's the problem with bid'ah. Because saying sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a bid'ah, but it's a good bid'ah. But now when you want to promote your bid'ah, that this is it, then your bid'ah becomes a bad bid'ah. Because now it's your bid'ah versus my bid'ah. And that's the problem we have with all the jamaats and everything. But this is something you must understand very, very profoundly. It's a problem. The problem with bid'ah, which is an innovation in and of itself is not bad, because our scholars have given 5 categories to it. But when you have a bid'ah hasana, even such a good bid'ah, like for example, every Thursday night you have a Ratibul Haddad, it's a bid'ah, but it's a good bid'ah. But now what happens is, when you start considering everybody else who doesn't do the Ratibul Haddad on a Thursday night as, you know, Ba'at Islams, right? And then your bid'ah has become a bid'ah sayyah. You with me? And many of the, you know, the fights going out about there and basically breaking down on our unity as Muslims is because I've appropriated a bid'ah, and because you're not doing my bid'ah, you are a bid'ah. Problematic. So, you know, these are important things. So, for us to have understanding on the one side and knowledge on the other side also, I think is very important to developing, you know, this unity amongst. And many, when I look at you people, akramakumullah, may Allah ennoble you, it looks almost like, you know, you guys are like, okay, now you're talking sense. You know, the Marxan for me now. But many people don't want to listen to this type of, what's the name? Because my bid'ah is so, you know, my bid'ah is my deen. That's not correct. And there you need like knowledge. You know, some of our ulama, you know, we have a lot of cases like this in our society. Like when, for example, at the Mawlid, you know, when it comes to the mention of the Prophet ﷺ, so it's now to stand. I love to stand. I stand because I feel that's the least I can do. But if somebody is sitting, and now what can I say? The first thing is, he doesn't love the Prophet ﷺ. How can we say that? You know, it's not permissible for us to say that. You saying that, okay, myself as an expression of my love for the Prophet ﷺ, I stand out of respect, and there's a lot of adillah for that. But if a person sits, if the Prophet ﷺ told us that when my name is mentioned you must stand, would all of us be sitting or standing? All of us would be standing, but he didn't say that. But we made a bid'ah. And what's the bid'ah? That when his name is mentioned in certain instances we stand. It's a good bid'ah. Yes, it's a good bid'ah. But now if I take my good bid'ah and I impose it on other people, what happens to that bid'ah? It doesn't, in that application of the bid'ah, it doesn't become correct. You know? So those are very important things for us. And from the outset, these mustn't be used as points of contention. Right? Now, you know, everything you learn mustn't be shared. So now today when you go for lunch, don't discuss bid'ah, kanala. Don't discuss bid'ah. It must, not everything you learn must be shared. There's a responsibility that comes with ilm. This is just for you to understand and to influence you. If by over the pot of biryani or akni that you're having today, right? And while we're mentioning that, a new bid'ah is that some people don't see a difference between akni and biryani. You know, I want to say that that's not bid'ah, that's haram. Somebody who does that is out of the fold of biryani and akni. He doesn't deserve a place on the table at all. You kick him out. You know what I mean? How can you, what blasphemy is that? Because mentions like that, that's subhanallah, la hawla wa la quwwata. But if it so happens that over the pot of biryani and akni, whatever you're having, somebody wants to know, look here, this mas'ala, then you explain to him. But it's not something that we're going to campaign with. And responsibly, why? Mention the mas'ala to bring people together. You know, to bring this one closer and this one closer, as opposed to, oh, this supports my view. The secret of interlocution is not to overpower the next person. It's to bring people closer. At least to the point that, look here, I still differ with you, but I understand where you come from. Bismillah. As long as it's within the broad ambit of Sharia, why not? No. So a person says Yaseen sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then to support, like they have the Yaseen Fadila. I don't know if you've heard about the Yaseen Fadila. So now certain turuq, like Allahumma salli wa sallam, if I understand in terms of my exposure to the Naqshbandi tariqa, they have what they refer to as the Yaseen Fadila. So they read Yaseen in a particular way, whereby they read certain verses a certain number of times and they repeat certain verses a certain number of times. Now what happens is, that is a bid'ah. But now what happens is, the shuyukh of that particular tariqah, and this is something which we must acknowledge and respect, they have like a tajribah, they have an experience, that when they have read the Yaseen in a particular manner, using it as a tool or invocation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a particular manner, their empirical experience has been that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants them this, that and the other. So many things, not because the Prophet said it, it's because the Quran is like so huge in terms of what you can gain from Quran, and in the experience of certain ulama, reading certain verses in a particular way has resulted in certain du'as being answered, and so on and so on and so forth. Is that valid? That is valid in as far as the experience of that person is concerned. And so if you follow, inshallah, with that particular niyyah, you may or may not gain that particular experience. But does it come from the Prophet? No, it doesn't. So Yaseen, and why would everybody be wanting to, we can end off on this particular note, why does everybody seem to want to, like almost like mine Yaseen? Like mine, like really get the most out of Yaseen. Why is that? The ultimate name of Yaseen, which we haven't really spoken about today, and we end off our class on that particular note, would be what? Yaseen is referred to as the what of Quran? The heart of Quran. And if you go back to what we're saying, Yaseen is Makki, and it has all of these primarily things. So your aqidah when about Quran, Wahi, Risala, those are the foundations, and everything is built on the foundation. So like that, Yaseen is the heart of Quran. Everything that is discussed in Quran really is basically just coming off or coming to what we refer to as Yaseen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.